Hi, I'm Rich Aarstad. I'm the senior manuscript archivist at the Montana Historical Society and a fur trade enthusiast. And today we're going to take a peek at From Traps to Caps, our education trunk. One of the first things I wanted to show you was what every trapper needed to have, a trap. This is a beaver trap. Look at the size of this thing. One of the reasons that they were so big is because beavers are big. The other reason is that you didn't want to do anything to damage the pelt. So you would trap the beaver in the water, the trap would sink the beaver to the bottom of the pond where it would drown without any holes in it, so you'd have a whole pelt. And what's a pelt? Well, let me show you. There are several different kinds of pelt. First and foremost, there's hide like this buffalo hide, but it's coarse fur, it's not fine quality. So this would be used more like a blanket for use outside or in some type of belting or things like that, as opposed to a fine fur. A fine fur is what you're going to have in a beaver pelt. This is a beaver pelt. Look how luscious this is and how smooth and soft. And look how big it is, nice and round and so forth. This is the prime fur of the fur trade era. This is what you wanted to get for making hats for Eastern gentlemen. And then you had other fine furs as well, like this little tiny weasel here. It takes a lot of weasels to make a hat, so they didn't make hats out of the weasels, but they would use them for decorations. Native Americans would use them for decorations as well on some of their clothing because it looked sharp. Another fine fur is a fox. Again, nice and smooth, luxurious. It could be used for a number of different things, including a stole for a lady so that she looked sharp when she went out on the town. Now, you could trap fur as yourself if you wanted to do that, or you could trade. One of the trade items that was used quite a bit were like this Hudson's Bay blanket. You could tell that by the design of the blanket itself. It was produced by the Hudson's Bay blanket. They're wool. They had a lot of different uses in the fur trade for the trappers themselves and for Native Americans, so this was one of the major trade items during the fur trade. Now, you might wonder how you get a beaver into one of these traps. So what you did was you baited the trap. Beavers like to chew on the nice willow bark and so forth, so you take some willow bark and you scent it. So all trappers pack their own scent bottle. It was their own mix of kind of stinky stuff to attract the beaver. A lot of times what they would do is they would take the goo from the glands of the beaver itself, and then they would mix whatever secret ingredient that they wanted into it, and they would keep it in one of these bottles that they would carry with them. So when they set the trap to hide their scent and to attract the beaver, they would unstopper the bottle and they would scatter some of the scent around, and they would scatter it on a stick that was mounted above the trap to attract the beaver to come in and step in the trap. Keep going. And of course, always firearms. What we have here are rifle balls for fur trade firearms and so forth. Those were a big trade item. A lot of times, only the big companies would do that. Also, this was something that they would sell to the fur trappers at the rendezvous so that they could restock their ammunition supply. Trade beads were a big item in the fur trade. You can see how small these were. Trade beads came from all over the world. They were international. So actually, international business or a worldwide economy has been around for quite a while because some of these beads came as far away as Venice, Germany, and other places like that. And they could be used to decorate clothing or items like this medicine bag that mountain men and some Indian tribes and so forth made. This is the nice thing about fur trade trunks. You just never know what you're going to find. So you got to dig deep to find, the good stuff. Oh, here we go. This kind of shows the national or international flavor of the fur trade. This was called a capote. It's kind of a version of the gentleman's coat in the fur trade. So it was made out of a Hudson's Bay blanket most of the time, so it was very colorful, decorative. A lot of times they would put beads on it. Capote is French, a French word for coat. There were a lot of French that were involved in the fur trade, and so there's a lot of French influence in the fur trade. I'm not sure this would fit me. They're a lot tinier back then than they are now. Martha's cringing, but it's okay. It doesn't fit. You got to have some humor in it. So capotes were a big deal. More fur. There's just a lot of fun that you can have in From Traps to Caps. And so I would encourage you to borrow one of the Historical Society's mini educational trunks and explore the history of your state.